Welcome back to 5-Minute Chemistry. Today we are going to take a detour to the land of physics and talk about energy, because understanding energy will help us understand a lot of chemical processes. So energy has multiple types. You can convert energy from one type to another. Energy also has some conservation laws, so you cannot just destroy energy or create energy from nothing. What are the types of energy? Well, we have kinetic energy, which is related to the movement of objects, and then we have potential energy, which is related to forces in fields that an object feels and which can make an object move. Then we have chemical energy, which is actually just kinetic and potential energy of particles that make up materials. But when we are talking about macroscopic things, sometimes it makes sense to talk about chemical energy in a material separately and not go into too much detail about the particles inside the material, because that does not matter from that perspective. Another type of energy is thermal energy. Thermal energy is also related to the kinetic energy and potential energy of particles that move around in objects that have a temperature. So basically all types of energy in the end can be described as kinetic and potential energy of the parts that make up that object, but sometimes it makes sense to create these more derived types of energies. So for kinetic energy, it is related to the objects in motion. So everything that moves is carrying energy, and this energy is basically 1/2 times the mass times the velocity squared of that object. That means that the larger the mass, the more energy you are carrying. So if you are moving at the same speed but you are 2 times the mass, then your kinetic energy will also be 2 times higher. But when it comes to velocity, if your velocity is larger, then your kinetic energy will be a lot larger due to this squared relationship here. So this is why speed limits are that important, because if you go 2 times faster, your kinetic energy will be 4 times higher. And when you are driving, for example, to stop your car, you have to convert all that kinetic energy that your car is carrying into some other type of energy, which is usually heat energy in your brake pads. The SI unit of energy you can get from the equation of kinetic energy. So mass is kilogram and velocity is meter per second. So the SI unit for energy will be kilogram meter squared per second squared. But in short, we just name this unit as joule, and its symbol is the uppercase J. Potential energy got named because it is the potential to gain velocity. So if you are an object which is in some kind of field, you feel forces from that field, and that field will accelerate you. And with that acceleration, you gain speed, and with the speed, you gain kinetic energy. And because energy cannot come from nothing, well, this kinetic energy you gained is actually coming from the field. So if you have like a negatively charged object and you are a positively charged object, you will feel the attractive force towards this negatively charged object. And as this force acts on you, you will gain velocity. And as you gain velocity, you gain energy, you gain kinetic energy. So actually the potential energy will relate to your position in this field. So if you are further away, that means you have higher potential energy with respect to this electromagnetic field, because if you are farther away, even though the force you feel initially will be smaller than the force you feel when you are closer, what happens is that you have a larger distance that you can travel. So in total, you will be accelerated more until you reach the source of this field. If you are accelerated more, that means you have higher velocity, which means you have higher kinetic energy. So you must have had higher potential energy at the start. Potential energy cannot just relate to the electromagnetic field. We can talk about the same thing when it comes to gravity. So when it comes to the gravitational field of Earth, the farther away you are from Earth, the higher your potential energy with respect to Earth's gravity will be. And if we are talking about just a human scale, so we can assume that the Earth is flat on a human scale. So gravity is just a force that is acting on us to move downwards, and you can See here also that as you move higher and higher in this field of gravity, your potential energy will be higher and higher. So if you have a ball, you drop this ball from this lower point, by the time it reaches the surface, its velocity will be much smaller than if you have a ball and you drop this ball from this higher height. By the time this ball reaches the surface, its speed will be higher. It means that the final kinetic energy will be higher. That means that this energy must have come from somewhere, so the potential energy it started with must have been higher. Okay, so this is it for today, and I will see you tomorrow.